Time now for an in-depth look at the market news on this Friday, and for that I'm joined on the line by Mr. Daniel Yu, global strategist at Yuanta Securities. Mr. Yu, thank you for making time this afternoon.
Thank you for having me tonight.
Well, stocks on Wall Street were higher on Thursday. Employment numbers coming in better than market expectations. The Nasdaq setting another all-time high. What's the story in the global markets?
Yes, as you said, U.S. market added quite significantly additionally. If you look at Dow Jones, it was up about 0.4%. S&P added about 0.5% as well. Nasdaq as well by 0.5%, and hitting the new record of 10,208. Clearly, there's a continuation of concern about the COVID-19 adding additional patients. If you look at the world number, it surpassed 10.7 million, of which more than 500,000 died and more than 5.5 million recovered. In the U.S., the epicenter of disease, the number of infections surpassed 2.7 million, followed by Brazil of 1.4 million, Russia by 0.6 million. And in terms of the death-wise, Brazil has overtaken the United States as the country with the highest COVID-19 death toll. However, though, if you look at the Wall Street, the reason why it moved much stronger despite these news of the COVID-19 is because of the better-than-expected employment numbers. The government data showed that U.S. economy added 4.8 million jobs in June, well above market expectation of 2.9 million. Also, in the past, people talked about how U.S. jobless rate and unemployment ratio might hit 20%. But in reality, it's falling continuously after hitting the highest number of 14.7. As of May, it went down to 11.1% from previous month of 13.3%. Also, beating the consensus estimation of 12.4%. However, though, initial jobless claims rose by 1.427 million, which is slightly above expectation of 1.38 million. Overall, this kind of stronger than expected the employment numbers, U.S. market did quite strongly, and that has resulted into most of other countries doing quite well today.
And the Korean markets higher today, too, taking their cue in part from Wall Street. The KOSPI is actually now back to where it was last year. Tell us about the local markets.
Yes, as you said, KOSPI is up by 0.8%, hitting 1250 level. And Nasdaq is also breaking 750 level, rising by 1.3%. The positive news coming from U.S. added the positiveness for KOSPI, but actually the real impact was because coming from the Chinese economic numbers. If you look at the China's data, the PMI numbers, the service PMI numbers for the small and mid-cap companies, which is the Caixin PMI numbers. These numbers are all coming in at record high level. Especially for the service numbers, it came in at 58.4, rising from 55 in the previous month, and it is a record high number in the last 3 years. So clearly, the recovery that's happening in China is quite strong, which means that domestic consumption is picking up within China, which does have positive implication for Korean companies, as Korea export more than 20% of the overall export to China. So clearly, this is a positive news affecting Korea's numbers to be better. And in terms of the overall consumer price index, it's unchanged. In terms of domestic consumption, reasonably okay. The really key factor is what's happening to the export. And hopefully we will see the export numbers improving going into the future. So far, the export numbers have improved, but still, nevertheless, it's a YOY decline by about 10% level. The previous month was declined by 20% level. So it is improving, but nevertheless, still declining. All in all, if the Korean economy is to recover, we need to see these export numbers improving to the positive territories. With Chinese numbers coming in better, hopefully we will see these numbers happening in the second half of this year.
Well, we're almost out of time, but let's talk about the exchange rate real quick. The Korean won back down around to the 1,200 level against the dollar. Tell us about the Korean currency.
Yes, Korean currency is not going to be moving much. I think the 1,200 range would be probably fairly reasonable number. The positive indication coming from China, domestic consumption picking up, Korea's consumption is quite steady, all resulting into stable currencies. And also these news of the U.S. having a huge amount of COVID-19 patients, that puts a negative tease towards the dollars. So because of that, we think the range bound will remain to be stayed, and meaning that about 1,200 level of won to dollar rate will remain in the future.
All right, Mr. Yu, thanks so much for coming on today. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you.